This section of notes is going to be a two-part section of notes. The first, we're going to finish up the culture section, and then we're going to move on to the greater Middle East today. First part I want to look at is culture. This region is culturally linked because of religious traditions. And these religious traditions are of the three major world monotheistic faiths, which again means when you believe in only one God. This map here shows you where the distribution of these are. Basically anything green is Islam. The peach color is Judaism. The pink and the purple and the red is Christianity. Different types of Christianity. Again, first we're going to look at religion. Religion both unifies and divides the people because the people are culturally linked by religious traditions, but those religious traditions also divide the people. There's 17 million Christians in this region. There's 6 million Jews in this region, and there's around 419 million Muslims. About 342 million of that 419 is Sunni Muslims, and 87 million is the Shia or the Shiite Muslims. The Sunni, which you can see as the light green color here, the Sunni believe that the leadership of the Islamic faith needs to be in the hands of the Islamic community and not necessarily a person. The 87 million Shiites, which predominantly are found in Iran, they believe that only descendants of Muhammad should have control of the religion. And there's a lot of controversy between those two types of faith. Just because they're Islamic does not mean that they agree on everything. Now we're going to look at a little bit more detail on the three major monotheistic faiths. First off, Judaism. Judaism, obviously monotheistic. They believe in one God. They believe in an invisible but powerful God who created the world. They do have a holy work. That holy work is called the Torah. The Torah is the Old Testament of the Christian Bible. They do not believe that the Messiah has come yet, so that there is not a New Testament for Judaism. They do not believe that Jesus was the Messiah. Their leader, Moses, took them out of Egypt and freed them from slavery. Moses presented the Hebrews with the 10 Commandments, which came directly from God. These 10 Commandments are their law, or not necessarily law system, but their rule code that they must follow, as well as the rule code of the Christians. Christianity is based on the teachings of Jesus. Jesus preached forgiveness, mercy, and sympathy for the poor and the helpless. Jesus' followers, who were known as apostles, carried out the teachings of Jesus after his crucifixion. Now there is one thing that I kind of want to teach you here, and maybe some of you already know, but there's a symbol in Christianity, which is the Christian fish. Now there's a lot of variations of what people believe was the reason behind the Christian fish, but I'm going to tell you the truth. Back during the Roman Empire, when the Christians were being persecuted, they could not openly profess their faith or talk about their faith. So they had this symbol that they used with each other. One person would get a stick and draw an arc in the sand. If the person who was across from them did not know what he was doing, then the initial person who drew the arc could go on their merry way. But if the person that he drew the arc in front of finished the arc into a fish, then they knew they could talk about Christianity together and that they would not be persecuted. So kind of a secretive symbol of Christianity. And a lot of people feel like it was the two fish that fed the thousands. But really and truly it comes down to the persecution time. And then we have the third major monotheistic faith of the region, and the one that has the most majority of people, Islam. The word Islam literally means submission to Allah. Allah is God for the Islamic people, for the Muslims. This faith was founded by Muhammad around 600 AD. Their holy work is called the Quran. And their belief system, their law code, is with the 5 pillars. The 5 pillars, the picture's in the bottom right here. The first is that you must believe in no other God but Allah, and that Muhammad was the professor of the faith. Second is you must pray 5 times a day facing Mecca, the city of Mecca. The third is you must fast during Ramadan, the holy days. Fourth, the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca. If at any point medically you can't do so, they believe that you don't have to, but everybody's strongly persuaded to take this pilgrimage. And then the last is the giving of alms, or the giving to charity. Now, on both of these slides, you'll notice that there's a lot of abstract art. Art in the Islamic time period and in this region, art in Islam, you could not draw people. And the reason that you do not see people drawn in art is that the Islamic people do not want anything to take away the focus from Muhammad himself. So they don't even draw pictures of Muhammad because they're afraid people will focus on it rather than actually Muhammad himself. And so what you see is a lot of abstract art. And you can see that here in these pictures. These two are the ceilings. These are the columns. Very, very abstract. In all of their mosques, you're going to see this abstract type of art. Now, this picture here in the top right corner is of the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca. And all of these little dots that you see, that's people. Okay, all of these dots you see out here are people. Happens the same time period every year that you're supposed to take this pilgrimage to Mecca, if at all possible. And then the symbol, the half-crescent moon. The half-crescent moon was used during the Ottoman Turk time period, and it kind of just stuck with the Islamic faith because of the region. So it's partly because of history, partly because of not. And then I've got a picture of South Park. Now, number one, let me make sure that you understand I am not urging you to watch South Park because it's very crude, and I would be very disappointed if you watched it. But it does give us a good picture of Muhammad. In one of their episodes, they said that they were going to air a picture of Muhammad. As you can see, they did not. They ended up putting him in a bear costume. People threatened the producers, Matt Parker and Trey Stone, I believe. They threatened these producers of South Park, saying that basically they were going to get rid of them. They were going to take care of them if they aired a picture of Muhammad, because again, you don't show pictures of Muhammad. So they didn't. They ended up putting him in a bear costume and kind of made the script go elsewhere. Kind of an interesting time period, and you probably didn't think you were going to be hearing about South Park in the notes today. Now I want to look at the standards of living. The standards of living vary widely in this region. You have some areas like the UAE, and then which is where Dubai is. And then you also have some other areas like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, who are doing very, very well, all because of that three-letter word, oil. These other areas don't have a whole lot of oil, and so their economies are affected because of it. So those countries that don't have access to these natural resources are not having the same success economically as some of these oil-rich nations are. In some places, population growth has surpassed the ability to meet needs. And we'll get to that in the next section. Finally, last thing I want to look at is language. This region is home to many different languages, including Turkish, Arabic, Persian, and Hebrew. But predominantly you see Arabic as the language spoken. There's some religious groups that live in this region who resist Western clothing style because they're wanting to protect their traditional cultural values. This is like the hijab, where the women wear the veils that cover their faces. They're resisting Western dress, like the United States type of dress, and they are relying on their traditional culture. Living in the Middle East today, the greater Middle East. This is your last major heading, and it's not going to take us very long. First thing is food needs. Only a small part of this region's land is arable or suitable for farming, yet a large percentage of workers in this area are in agriculture. The reason being is it's subsistence type of agriculture, so you have a lot of people but not a whole lot of agricultural production. Most of this region's agricultural production is in the river valleys, the Nile River Valley as well as Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and the Euphrates. And then B, industrial growth. Petroleum and oil products are the main export commodities or economic goods of the greater Middle East. Iran and Saudi Arabia all operate large oil refining and oil shipping facilities that bring them money. You could see this, thousands of barrels per day. This was 1999 figures, so it's probably going to be even a little bit more. Saudi Arabia produces almost 9,000, Iran almost 3,000, UAE, Iraq shortly after. And these are not small nations. I mean, these are not big nations, people. They are very small, but producing a lot of the world's oil. And you can see that with this pie chart here. That's a big chunk of the world's production of oil. Now, one thing that I don't have pictures for, but that's the service industry. Service industries play significant roles as well, such as banking, real estate, and insurance. These are 60% of Bahrain's GDP. Tourism is also important in this region, especially in some of those areas like Dubai, that bring in some income as well for the service industry. And then last but not least, probably the main thing other than oil from this region that you need to get is the need for H2O, the need for water. As the population grows, as does the demand for water. People in these regions have used a new process called desalination, and that's taking salt out of salt water. I'll spell it right in a second. There we go. That's a T there. Desalination, taking the salt out of salt water so that you can drink it. This is all well and good, but it is a very, very expensive process. But like in this region, when you don't have any other choice, they do. They use it. And these new technological advances make it possible for desalination. Now I'm going to give you some examples, not of desalination, but reflecting the need for water in this region. One of those is the Aswan High Dam in Egypt. This region controls flooding of the Nile River, but it also stops the fertile silt from settling in areas around this river. When used to, it would flood and bring this fertile soil, so it has affected farming negatively. But 50% of Egypt's power comes from this area. But then on the flip side of that, a lot of this region flooded once they stopped the water in the first place. Used to as a river flow, then it flooded up once they put this dam into place. But you could see its location on the bottom of this map in your bottom right corner of this map in Egypt. Next is the Aral Sea. This was once the world's fourth largest body of inland water, but it's disappearing. People are blocking its where it used to get its water because they're needing water, and it's not being filled up like it should. Another is the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea has dropped over 270 feet in 40 years because of feeders being diverted for irrigation and hydroelectric plants. It's called the Dead Sea because, as you can see here in the top left picture, it's very, very salty, and things can't live in this. So don't get confused. It's not on the ocean. It's actually in the middle. It's in Jordan. It's the Dead Sea.